There we go.
All right.
All right, so
Are you sure you want this in the background?
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, I thought you were doing it on purpose, and I was like, oh my gosh.
No, Mark and I were talking about how we were having this night in Paris. We need some French music, so I got some.
I wish I had a beret, especially for this interview.
I have a cowboy hat. That helps.
What'd you have?
I have a cowboy hat.
Yeah, that helps. That does help.
Can you describe your daily life?
Like in practical things, or just go through the whole.
Just go with the whole
Okay.
details.
Details. Okay, I'll give you details. Okay, so one thing that we do, I'm part of the Consecrated Women of Miles Christi. So we have, in our religious order, we have an association of consecrated women. So Miles Christi means soldiers of Christ. And in the religious order, there are priests, brothers, and consecrated women. So the consecrated women are their own association within the religious order, and they live in their own community. So in our community, a daily life looks a little something like this. We wake up at 6 o'clock every morning, and one thing that's interesting that people don't know about because they don't know this, is that we wake up to the ringing of a bell and knock on the door, and the person that is in charge of the bell, which I pity that person, they say Benedicamus Domino, and that means blessed be the Lord, and you respond to let them know you're awake, Deo Gratias, which means thanks be to God. And so that's the beginning of your day, and so it is really beautiful because you begin your day blessing God and asking for His watch over your day and His grace. And so we have our personal prayer in the morning, and then everyone goes about their day. I am in charge of the coffee making. And so, and then at 6:30, just a couple minutes before 6:30, you'll hear the bell ring again, and that sounds to remind everyone that we'll meet in the chapel and make a visit to the Blessed Sacrament. So we do that in community, but the vocation to consecrated women, or consecrated life within the Association of Consecrated Women is very dynamic. So a lot of us do different things. We have a consecrated woman who studied Spanish, and she does a lot of translating. One is a teacher and an organist, and since I work at the school, I leave usually right after our visit because a lot of times I have to be coordinating shadows, or I need to meet somebody in the morning or be available. So, but if I were able to stay, our community makes their time of meditation. So we have a daily time of meditation, which is about an hour every morning, and it's before the Blessed Sacrament in our chapel, because we have a chapel in our house, which is really cool. And so we have an hour of prayer, and since I often am not able to do that in the community, I will do that not in the morning, but I'll do that in the evening when I get home. So there's an hour of meditation, and then we also have time every day for spiritual reading and for formative reading. So I don't know, spiritual reading could be Life of a Saint or something, but some sort of or writings from a saint. And then let's see, formative reading is more like, okay, let's talk about relativism or something like that. So because our specific charism is the sanctification of young adults. And so with that, we need to help them learn to not only, know the faith, which, having that formation, but loving the faith. So we need to devote time to both prayer and study. So we do that every day. And so then I would leave normally. Okay, and I go to school and hang out with you guys. And within the spectrum of the sanctification of young adults, I'm able to work at the school because I work with a lot of young people. I'm able to have Bible studies, still information groups, and there's some flexibility there, and some crossover from my work and apostolic work, which is really nice. So that's kind of what my day looks like. You guys see me at school, and then I come home. I try to come home on time, but throughout the week we have time we have a formation class once a week that's an hour long, and then a spiritual talk once a week with the entire community given by one of the priests. We also have a time of personal prayer with exposition of the Blessed Sacrament once a week too, which is really, really nice. The benefits of having a chapel are endless. And so we have that every week, and let's see, I'm trying to think of something else that I forgot.
Do you
you guys have daily mass?
Yeah, we have daily mass in the community. So after their hour of meditation, there is community mass. If for some reason it can't be held here, because a lot of our priests are often preaching the spiritual exercises across the country. If there is only one priest and he's alone, then they'll go to the family center that we opened in South Lyon. And we have a lot of activities there for young women and young men, and all families that are in the area are invited to a lot of different events there. But our focus is usually on, educating young women in the faith and helping them learn to love the faith, that it's fun, and helping them see that it's attractive to live out their faith authentically, and really dedicate themselves to prayer and their relationship with God. And so on the weekends we have a lot of different like retreats or girls' nights or different things, just to get together and have fun in a good environment. Um, and so that's kind of what a week looks like. A lot of the consecrated women in my order work at the schools in the area, or they'll have girls groups at the schools. But a lot of the time they are working at the family center that we have in South Lyon. But I am the only one, I think, that's full-time working outside of the order. So that looks a little bit different for me. So sometimes they'll work on weekends, like a little bit on Saturdays, and usually I'm here cleaning. So that's kind of what. I'm trying to think if I missed anything, but
That sounds pretty thorough.
I try to be thorough. She asked for details.
So what would you say, like, what do you do in your daily prayer in order to strengthen your relationship with God?
Well, I always ask for His grace. Because, so we have time of daily meditation, but I mean, it's easy to spend a lot of time and not really getting a lot out of it if you're not really asking for God's grace. I mean, you could stare at a wall. So it's really important to really ask for God's grace to do your meditation well, to spend that time well, because that's the danger in consecrated life, is that you have all this time that you're devoting to God, or you're busying yourself about, and then you have these set times of prayer and community, which is a huge help to your spiritual growth, because in a community you're accountable, you're responsible for that time, and you know where you're going to be. So now the real task is to ask for God's grace and correspond with that grace to really use that time well. So always asking for God's grace, but then really trying to make the time happen, because when things do get really busy, working at the school and then trying to be available for the different community activities throughout the week, to really make time for your reading, or to really not be freaking out about all the things you have to do when you're praying, it takes God's grace, because we're human and we get distracted. So that's probably what I would say.
And then, how do you spend holidays? Like, how many do you spend holidays with your family?
Holidays?
Holidays? Do you spend them with your family, or do you spend them with the community, or how does that kind of work?
Okay, so we go home 3 times a year. It sounds like really intense. Okay, only 3 times a year. I love this music. I'm sorry. I got so distracted. Okay, so we go home once after Christmas, in around January, early January, somewhere around the Epiphany. So, because our order is really busy during Christmas time, because we have Christmas dinners in California, Chicago, here in Michigan. We're working really hard to have a young adult choir always to perform at the dinner, and so there's always a lot going on in Christmas time. And then we also, right before Christmas, we're not available to be with our families either, because we try every year to have an Advent retreat within the community. So it gets a little hectic around Christmas time, so then it slows down and we go home for 2 nights in January, and then we go home in July, or Easter, right around after Easter, and then in July. So, and those 2 visits that I just mentioned are only 1 night. So you leave on a Saturday morning, and then you spend all Saturday, all Sunday, and come back Sunday evening. So it's they're very short times, and so it's really about purity of intention when we're going home. We have to remember, because it's so easy. You want to see your family, and you want to spend time with them, but we have to remember, and so you always will have okay, this is what I want to do when I go home. I just want to wear jeans, that's all. But So one thing that we do, we really try to remind ourselves, and it's written in our kind of in our customs or explained that we go home for out of charity for our family members. So